My name is Neil Cussen. I'm a Director of Clover Risk Funding and warmly welcome you to our podcast today, our podcast number 6 at our recently developed studio here at our Sydney office at 55 Clarence Street. At Clover, we do things differently in providing a one-stop shop for funding insolvency practitioners and their legal advisors through our industry experience, an experience with an edge. At Clover, we've just celebrated our second birthday and we're continuing to expand our team and family. I'm delighted to say, joining me today is one of the queens of the litigation funding market, Lisa Brentnall, our new Chief Investment Officer. So welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me in this very fancy podcast studio.
It's wonderful having you here. And for our audience, Lisa is a seasoned legal practitioner with some 20 years experience in the litigation funding arena, worked as a senior investment manager for nearly 20 years, and was in legal practice many years before that. Lisa's managed a significant number of complex litigation funding matters in insolvency, in commercial insurance, employment, and so well qualified to help us with Clover's growth aspirations over the next few years. So we are really excited to have you join our team and really strengthen our business. So that's really great news for us and our clients. So welcome, Lisa, again. It's only been a few weeks. Hopefully you've found it a reasonable change from what you've been doing in the past. But I thought I'd start by asking you about your journey and where you got your start and some life lessons that you've had going through that.
For sure. Well, it seems like a long time ago now, but I first started in private practice. I was working in a law firm in North Sydney, straight out of College of Law, and I was doing debt recovery, commercial claims, pretty simple stuff, until the partner delivered me an insolvency matter, which I had never done before. And so it was very new, but really exciting. I really enjoyed it. But it just happened to have Alex Linden of Kemp Strang on the other side, who is an incredible insolvency practitioner or legal advisor. And at the end of the file, I got a call from somebody from Alex's team asking me if I would interview for a role with Kemp Strang within that team. And I did. And I was fortunate enough to get the role and had the great privilege of working with some of Australia's finest insolvency lawyers, Alex Linden, Scott Hedge, Glenn Cussen, Phil Parker, Peter Harrison, and I loved my time there. So essentially I kind of fell into insolvency. It wasn't the plan, but I'm incredibly grateful that I was given that opportunity. And then I had been there, I think it was about 4 or 5 years, and then I was at an ARETA conference at one of the dinners, and I happened to be on a table with the CEO of a litigation funder. And at that stage, I had no idea what litigation funding even was. This was in late 2005. And the next day, I got a call from that CEO saying, listen, I know you've just recently got married, you're going to want to have family soon, and you can't do both work and family well, and when the time comes I'll give you all the flexibility that you need. She was speaking my language at the time, so I took the plunge. I started a few weeks later, walked into the office and said, right, I'm here now, what is litigation funding? That was nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah.
Well, time's gone quickly, but that was, Kemp's were really the boutique insolvency firm of their time and had some serious hitters. So obviously you had some good teachers there.
Oh, I remember when I was contemplating whether to join the team, I asked around a few practitioners that I knew, and they said to me, if you work with Alex Linden from Kemp Strang for any period of time, you will get a job anywhere. He was so highly respected in the industry.
Well, I think he's still doing a little bit of consulting today. So,
yes. He's still around.
Alex is still with us, which is great.
Yeah.
I guess the insolvency market, the funding market's interesting. High levels of insolvency appointments. A lot of issues in different industries, particularly in construction. But how are you seeing the insolvency market? How are you seeing, I guess, from also a funding point of view, I guess?
Yeah. Generally, the insolvency market, I mean, it has been fairly quiet over the last 10 years or so. It's been pretty patchy. particularly at the big end of town. So the larger claims, there's been fewer of them. I think the smaller claims, there's always going to be a reasonably steady stream. But I know in the last 12 to 18 months, there's been a significant increase in insolvencies. I think it was ASIC indicated that in financial year 23-24, there was an increase of corporate insolvencies of about 39% compared to the previous financial year. And in personal insolvencies, the AFSA was indicated that it was about 17.9%, I think it was, increase from the previous year. So significant increase.
I think we're seeing the ATO being a lot more active.
Yes.
Particularly in the last probably 12 to 15 months.
Yeah. I think they have amended their formal policies so that they are actually chasing more of their debts, seeking to recover them. So that's made a massive difference in the market. And I think flowing on from that, that does have an effect on the litigation funding industry as well. So for the larger claims, so funders who really focus on the larger claims, over the last 10 to 15 years, insolvency has been pretty quiet. You might get one or two of the bigger claims that come through the door, but the focus of funding for those funders have shifted very much to class actions. So class action seems to be a very large focus for a lot of funders in the market. But I think because there is a lag generally with those bigger claims between when a company goes into external administration or liquidation, there's generally about 12 months before we see any claims that want litigation funding. So I think over the next, it'll be fairly soon that funders generally will see a big uptick in insolvency matters coming through the door. However, for those funders that focus on the smaller end of town, and when I say smaller, I say really anything from 3 to 15 mil, there's always that steady supply of funding applications for insolvency. So, and I think that's pretty evident with Clover. It certainly hasn't been quiet.
It's certainly our market, and it's.
Yeah.
I'm not unhappy to hear that some of our competitors are moving up into that class action space, and there is a gap there. And the last 2 years have been reasonably busy for Clover, and we've been building, our framework and trust with practitioners around, and we're there to support them. What do you think an insolvency practitioner would be looking in a funder?
I think there's a few things that they would be looking for in a funder, but the primary one would be trust. I think litigation funding is very much built on trust because the insolvency practitioner needs to be able to have comfort that their invoices will be paid. At the end of the day, if we're not successful in the claim, that we will protect them for adverse costs, that we will stand by our indemnity. So I think that is critical for insolvency practitioners. But then there's some other soft skills as well, flexibility being one of them. Yeah. I think each claim is so different from the next. They may both be, you may have two insolvent trading claims, but they'll be in different circumstances. There'll be different levels of evidence. There'll be different defendants. So each claim is very, very different. And so therefore, I think the funding solution also has to be different. We need to be flexible to adapt to the particular claim. So I think insolvency practitioners are very much cognizant of wanting a funder who can, move, be flexible according to what they need. I think also very important is responsiveness. We're dealing with lawyers who have to work with court deadlines. We're working with insolvency practitioners who have their own deadlines. And if we're involved in the chain and we're taking too long, then it holds everybody else up as well. My background when going through school and uni, I worked in retail for 8 years. So, well, actually, no, it was more than that. Okay, over 10 years. And it became very apparent to me then and also from the years going forward is that customer service is critical in every single business. So, and I think this is very true. That's what insolvency practitioners look for. They want people who will be able to give them a response quickly, that they're efficient, that they tailor their solutions, that, it is very client focused. So I think that's what they will primarily be looking for. But there's one other factor that has changed significantly since I came into the litigation funding market. So in about 2006, we were only funding insolvency matters. In 2006, there was the High Court decision of Campbell's Cash and Carry and FOSTIF, which allowed for matters that weren't insolvency matters to be funded. But prior to that, we were only able to fund insolvency matters due to a carve-out in the Corporations Act. And at that time, litigation funders, because we was reasonably new on the scene, it was almost like that child in the corner that children need to be seen but not heard.
Yeah.
Whereas there's been a massive shift. And I think now insolvency practitioners recognise and understand that as litigation funders, almost, I'm going to take a stab in the dark, but I think I wouldn't be unreasonable to say that for some legal practitioners, for every one mediation they attend, a litigation funder is probably attending 10. And that's based on Clover's record, because even I've been here 3 weeks and we've already got about 4 mediations that, within that period. So I think by virtue of having that experience in mediations and seeing a whole array of different matters, that practitioners recognise that we have seen a lot and that we can add to strategy and, add value to the claim
particularly
itself.
if you can deal with a matter at mediation or before trial costs.
Yeah.
That's got to be an important factor to every insolvency practitioner.
Absolutely.
There's certainly a large cost there. But if you flip that, what are the ingredients that a funder would look at from a claim that, as a practitioner, brings you a claim? What do you like to see, and how do you assess that?
Okay. I'm going to sound repetitive, but the first thing would be trust as well, because likewise we need to know that at the end of the day, if we have supported the practitioners through this claim, that we will be able to, we will be paid our entitlements under the funding agreement. We also need to be kept abreast of the material factors that's happening in the file, because we do need to protect our investment, but we do like to feel part of a team. It's not just you're the funder separate from the insolvency practitioner or the client and the lawyer. We like to see ourselves as a team, and we like to be able to, I think there needs to be a relationship and environment in which we feel free to ask stupid questions, to have the hard conversations, which sometimes you do in matters that may not necessarily go the way you anticipated. So I think trust is a very big thing. And then you have the generic thresholds that most funders will look at. So, for example, the merits of the claim doesn't have to be a no-brainer, lay down misere, but we would like something that at least has, better than reasonable prospects. We then look at proportionality. There's no point pursuing a claim if once you recover the funds, the costs of actually getting that money are more, or don't allow a at least significant amount back to the creditors or back to the claimant. So we're looking for good proportionality between costs and claim value. And then obviously recoverability. There's no point getting a judgment for a sum that you're not going to be able to
Target's
recover.
important, right? So
Yeah.
but I'd pick up that that team. I think is very important, and the trust there, but also the legal team that the liquidator perhaps is using, the counsel.
Yeah.
The parameters around that sort of team is important, I think, in terms of ticking off a claim, and obviously merits and the target. But with those high level of insolvencies, particularly I guess in that SME market, middle market, those claims you mentioned 3 to 15, there must be some good opportunities to help the practitioners with their investigations early, whether it's examinations and get into those PEs early and work up a claim
100%.
and basically satisfy that there is a claim there or there's not.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think, and this is where some funders differ in the market. I'm really pleased to see with Clover that they are really very open to providing seed funding for PEs. A lot of funders will say, well, we'll only provide that funding if you can show us that there is a prima facie case, and the PEs are really just to substantiate what you already know. Yeah. You're missing out on great opportunities there, because sometimes the claim doesn't really reveal itself until you've had those PEs. So I am a big believer in come to us early so that we can help you to conduct those investigations.
That's good advice. I think it's good advice. In the funding industry, what challenges are you seeing for the actual funders at the moment?
Well, I guess it's interesting in depending upon what particular claims you're funding. So in the class action space, it's ever evolving. There's a lot of issues in terms of regulation, which is often dependent upon which political party is in power at the time. There's issues about competing actions. There's a lot of speculation or conversation about the funders' entitlements and the structure of their commission and the amount of their commission. And I think because of the amounts involved in class actions and the nature of class actions, that those issues will be ever present. There'll always be questions asked. But I think generally in the litigation funding industry, one of the biggest issues that I see, and it has been for a long time, is that there is a very limited access to litigation funding for those smaller claims. So say the 3 to 15 million. I mean, or really anything from one. Clover does fund matters from 1 million up. But there's very, very few funders who will fund those type of claims, whether it's insolvency or commercial, because their metrics don't allow them to fund a claim that, and I'm going to use quotes here, small. Whereas I think because of my background, when I first started in the industry, it was only insolvency matters. I almost feel an ethical obligation to the insolvency industry itself. I accept that litigation funders are commercial beasts. We are entitled to put profit first. But I feel like we also owe a service to the industry. And that service is being able to structure our funding models so that we can provide funding for these smaller claims. And I'm really comforted to see that that is what Clover has managed to do and does it better than anyone, is that they are able to provide really good funding solutions for these smaller claims that benefits everybody. Sees a return to creditors, the lawyers get paid, insolvency practitioners get paid, and Clover still makes a return from it. Yeah,
look, I think it's important for the insolvency industry because there's a lot of work that practitioners do that the public don't see, that the practitioners don't get paid for.
Yeah.
So if it can assist that metric, I'm certainly all for it. And Clover was built to support the industry, so I'm hoping that the feedback from the industry is we are going down that right track. You mentioned responsiveness before, and I agree on the agility side. And Clover's developed a portal on its website for easy access by the market to upload claim and documents, and Clover's developing an AI function to read that information, summarise it, because I think it's all important to for practitioners to get an answer quickly. Even if it's a no, they can then look at other alternatives or move on. But I don't know if you've had a chance to play with any of that, but I think it's going to be a good way to deal with volume of claims and get some information back early. And no one wants to read a 500-page transcript, right? So
that's right.
We want AI to help the industry for that and give us all some peace of mind as well. So.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned it, Neil, because I am super excited about this whole portal. I am very much about procedures and efficiency and trying to provide that customer service to clients, and I think this is an incredible way to do it. So the way that I understand it's going to be implemented, or the intention is that people will answer a bunch of questions when they're making a funding application. They do it online, answer a bunch of questions, and that goes straight to the CEO, to Humph. He will look at that to see whether it ticks the relevant boxes, and then stage 2. So stage 1 is already in play. Stage 2 is then, well, actually, sorry, I should go back. Stage 1, the answer is either going to be no, it just doesn't fit our funding criteria. Yes, but we need further information, or just straight yes. If it is a yes, or yes, we need further information, then we go into stage 2. Stage 2 is, can you please provide us the supporting documents, this further information? That can be uploaded to the portal, and that's where AI does its best. And we will be able to input searches and so forth. So say they've provided us with a budget. We don't have to go through volumes and volumes of documents to try to find that budget. We can ask AI and it'll pull it straight up. And it means then that we have all of the information that we need in one bundle, which means it's much quicker, much more efficient for us to be able to assess whether it's something that we can fund. So it's something that it is available now on the Clover website. I encourage all people, if they have a funding application, to try it out, have a go, because ideally it will save time for the clients as well. Because if we have repeat clients, so say insolvency practitioners who often have a few different claims, the second time that they come back, their details will automatically populate. So it saves time for them as well. So I encourage everybody to get onto it.
I think it's going to be speed up the agility of the marketplace, and I'm sure it'll be copied by others at some point. So all good for the industry to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And look, use of technology is just going to become more and more available to enhance the operations and the process and streamline things, and more innovation the better, right? So
absolutely.
Most of us think. So at the opening, you talked about being in private practice and litigation funding. What would you see the major differences there? I mean, you've got obviously a lawyer looking after perhaps a client, where now you've got a lot of new opportunity, a lot of new people to meet, greet, and advise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, as a lawyer, the main difference is, or one of the main differences, is that you get into the weeds of a matter. You really drill down into the detail, and you could be all consumed by one matter. You could be on one matter for 3 years. But the volume of matters that you get to work with are reasonably limited because you have to dive down into that detail. I think in litigation funding, the part that I like about it is that there's so much variety.
Right.
I mean, I know about salmon farming now, which I never thought I would ever have a need to know about. But like, there's so many different claims that you get to come across and deal with, and the people. So I get to deal with a whole bunch of different lawyers rather than just one particular firm.
Yeah, and counsel, no doubt.
And counsel and insolvency practitioners. And the thing that I love about this industry is the relationships. So I think that's a massive benefit of doing litigation funding. Oh, and no timesheets. So, which I know it sounds like it's no timesheets, it means you don't have to be inputting. But I think the benefit of not having a timesheet is that you can spend as much time as you feel you need on a matter, rather than as a lawyer, you'd just be getting halfway into it, start getting excited because you think you found the answer, and then you go, oh, I've spent so much time on this already, I really can't justify charging for this. Do I just do this on my own time, or do I just cut it short? So I think timesheets are not necessarily, well, they're certainly not my bag, so I'm glad to be away from it.
I'd like a world with no timesheets.
Yeah.
I have that vision. I'm not sure I'll ever get there, but so we talked about work a little bit, but what are your interests outside of work? What keeps you busy, perhaps on weekends?
Yeah. Well, I am very lucky to have been married to my soulmate for the last 20 years. So 2 incredible teenage girls who still want to hang out with us. So
that's cool.
That's where I spend a lot of my time. But my happy place is either watching sport or playing sport. Being out in the bush, trail running with friends, that's because I think when you're playing or when you're watching, you can't be thinking about other things. Yeah. It's almost like you need to focus. So I find it's actually a natural relaxant, as well as all those endorphins
Well, you
going
need
on.
you need downtime doing other things.
Yeah, yeah.
And family's important, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's
And if
good.
I can combine sport and family at the same time, bonus.
So you mentioned obviously you're living in New South Wales, North Sydney law firm, Chemstrang. Now you live in Brisbane. So I have to ask you this question: with state of origin, do you have family that are either or are you all New South Wales or all Queensland?
So I get asked this a lot, Neil. And my standard response is it's called state of origin. And my origin is and always will be New South Wales. So
Very good.
Yeah, that's right. So yes, I am a New South Wales supporter for state of origin. But for all other league, I will support the Brisbane teams.
Oh, you'll have to let our CEO know that.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, I have several times. Yeah.
Well, thanks for spending some time with me today. It's been really good to get to know you a little better, and I know you're only sort of 3 weeks into the new role and finding your feet and getting used to Clover, but we're enormously excited for you to be here. So
So am I.
it's going to be a great journey to go on with all the teams. So thank you for wanting to assist our growth. So that's awesome.